What if the fire that fuels your greatest dreams is also the spark that could set your life ablaze? Imagine a lover's gaze that never fades, a gamer whose eyes never leave the screen, a scientist whose notes become a torrent of ink, and a hand that scrolls endlessly through a phone. All of them are caught in the same magnetic pull, an urge that feels exhilarating until it turns into a relentless chase.
Passion is the engine that drives us forward. It's the positive, motivating force that gives purpose to our goals and fuels creativity.
Obsession, on the other hand, is the shadow side of that engine.
It's a fixation that becomes intrusive, a loop that hijacks our thoughts, and often, a path that leads to self-destruction.
Recent studies suggest that 1 in 5 people experience obsessive thoughts that interfere with daily life,
a number that has risen sharply alongside the explosion of social media platforms and the pressure to perform at ever higher levels.
By the end of this journey, you'll understand the chemistry that lights the fire, the warning signs that signal a shift from healthy drive to dangerous fixation, and 3 practical tools to keep your passion in the driver's seat. Let's start at the source, your brain. The brain's reward engine is powered by dopamine, a chemical that fuels anticipation and learning. Neuroscientists distinguish between the want and the liking of an experience. The want is the craving that pushes us to seek out a reward, while the liking is the actual pleasure we feel when we obtain it. When a cue like the ping of a notification or the glow of a screen appears, the mesolimbic pathway lights up. This circuit includes the nucleus accumbens, the ventral tegmental area, and the prefrontal cortex. Each time the loop fires, dopamine floods the system, reinforcing the behavior and urging us to repeat it.
When this loop becomes overactivated, the seeking mode overtakes the liking mode, turning a simple desire into a compulsive drive that feels impossible to ignore.
Why does this ancient system still dominate us in the modern world? In our ancestral past, fixation on food, mates, or safety was a matter of survival. An intense focus on locating a water source or protecting a tribe increased one's chances of living to see another sunrise. Those same neural mechanisms are still wired into us, but today they encounter stimuli that are abundant and low-cost likes on a post, endless episodes of a series, or the pressure to outdo colleagues. This mismatch creates a perfect storm. Social media platforms, for example, employ variable ratio reinforcement, the same principle that makes slot machines addictive. The brain never knows when the next rewarding notification will arrive, so it stays on high alert, checking the phone again and again.
Consider the story of a fitness influencer who began posting daily workout videos. At first, the routine was energizing and built a supportive community.
Over time, the need to outdo previous posts grew, leading to longer sessions, fewer rest days, and an ever-tightening schedule.
The influencer started feeling anxious when a day's content wasn't ready, and the joy of movement turned into a relentless pressure to perform. This spiral illustrates how a once healthy passion can morph into a toxic obsession, eroding mental health and personal relationships.
Psychological red flags signal that the balance has tipped.
Intrusive thoughts that dominate mental space, a loss of control over the behavior, neglect of other important areas of life, and a growing tolerance that requires more of the activity to achieve the same feeling are all warning signs. The emotional toll can include heightened anxiety, depressive moods, strained relationships, and a sense of identity loss as the self becomes defined solely by the obsession.
Clinically, obsessive-compulsive disorder sits at one extreme of a continuum, while many people experience a healthy obsession that sits closer to the middle. Recognizing where you fall on that spectrum is the first step toward reclaiming balance.
If this is blowing your mind, hit subscribe and let's keep exploring together.
Now that we've uncovered the brain's chemistry, the evolutionary backdrop, and the signs of a turning point, the next step is to learn how to intervene before the fire consumes everything. Stay tuned for the tools that can help you steer your passion back onto a safe, sustainable path. Imagine you're standing in front of a roaring bonfire.
The heat is intoxicating. The light draws you in, and you feel a surge of energy that makes you want to stay forever.
That flame is your passion, but if you step too close, you risk being burned.
The good news is that you can learn to respect the fire, to keep it warm enough to fuel you without letting it turn into an inferno that consumes everything you care about. The first tool is to create a mental pause button. Whenever you notice the urge to check your phone for the next notification, to replay a conversation in your head, or to push yourself a little farther in a workout,
give yourself a brief moment of stillness.
Close your eyes, breathe in slowly through the nose, hold for a count of 3, then exhale gently through the mouth. Repeat this cycle 3 times. This simple practice of mindful breathing interrupts the automatic loop that the brain's reward system loves to run. By inserting a pause, you give the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and impulse control, a chance to catch up with the more primitive urge-driven centers. Over time, these pauses become a habit, a safety net that prevents the runaway cascade of compulsive behavior. Second, set clear, compassionate boundaries around the activity that fuels your obsession. Think of a garden. You need to water the plants you love, but you also have to prune the weeds that threaten to overrun the space. Write down 3 specific limits that feel realistic for you. For example, you might decide that you will only scroll through social media after you have completed a morning routine that includes a healthy breakfast, a stretch, and a brief review of your day's priorities. Or, you could set a rule that you will not engage in work-related emails after a certain hour in the evening, giving your mind time to unwind.
The key is to frame these limits not as punishments, but as acts of self-respect.
When you honor them, you reinforce the message that your worth is not tied to endless productivity or constant validation. Over time, the brain learns to associate these boundaries with safety, reducing the intensity of the craving that once felt all-consuming. The third strategy involves reshaping the narrative you tell yourself about the activity. Our thoughts act like lenses that either magnify or diminish the significance of events.
When you catch yourself thinking, if I don't post today, I'm a failure, pause and ask, what evidence do I have that this is true?
Then, replace that judgment with a more balanced statement, such as, I am proud of the content I create, and I also value rest and recovery. This cognitive reframing doesn't erase the desire, but it weakens the emotional charge that powers it. By regularly practicing this mental shift, you begin to see the activity as a tool rather than a master, and the obsessive grip loosens. Let's illustrate how these tools can work together with a short story. Imagine Maya, a graphic designer who loves creating digital art.
She used to spend a few hours after work sketching, sharing her pieces on an online community, and receiving encouraging comments that motivated her.
Over time, the positive feedback turned into a relentless need for more likes, more shares, more approval.
She found herself staying up late, ignoring dinner, and feeling an anxious knot whenever her phone was silent. Maya decided to implement the pause button. Each time she felt the urge to check her notifications, she took 3 mindful breaths.
She also set a boundary: no design work after the evening hour, reserving that time for a calming walk with her dog. Finally, she rewrote her inner script, reminding herself that her creativity is valuable regardless of external metrics.
Within a few weeks, Maya reported feeling lighter, more focused during her work hours, and more present during her personal time.
The fire of her passion still burned bright, but it no longer threatened to scorch her life. If you recognize a piece of your own routine that feels like it's edging toward obsession, try applying these 3 steps right now. Notice the cue that sparks the urge. Take a mindful pause, enforce a gentle boundary, and reframe the story you tell yourself.
You might be surprised at how quickly the tension eases.
Of course, there are moments when the fire has already spread too far, and self-help tools aren't enough.
If you find that anxiety, sleeplessness, or depressive thoughts are becoming a regular part of your days, consider reaching out to a mental health professional.
Therapists trained in cognitive behavioral techniques can help you untangle the patterns that keep the obsession alive. Support groups, whether online or in person, also provide a safe space to share experiences and learn from others who have walked a similar path. Remember, seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. It's the ultimate act of caring for the very self you wish to protect. Now, let's talk about the role of community in keeping the flame balanced. Sharing your journey with trusted friends can create accountability and perspective.
When someone you respect sees you slipping into a compulsive loop, they can gently point it out, offering a reality check that your own mind might ignore.
Likewise, celebrating small victories together, like a week of respecting your digital curfew or a day of uninterrupted creative flow, reinforces positive behavior.
Community can act as both a mirror and a safety net, reflecting back where you might be losing sight of balance and catching you before you fall. It's also useful to periodically assess the meaning behind your passion.
Ask yourself questions like, what deeper need am I trying to satisfy? Or, how does this activity align with my long-term values?
Sometimes, the surface-level excitement hides a deeper yearning for connection, recognition, or control. By identifying that underlying motive, you can find healthier ways to meet it. For instance, if the craving for validation drives you to post constantly, you might cultivate a practice of journaling gratitude,
which offers internal affirmation without the volatility of external feedback.
Let's bring this full circle with a final illustration. Think of Alex, a software developer who became fascinated with mastering a new programming language.
At first, the challenge sparked curiosity, and he spent evenings learning, building small projects, and sharing his progress on a forum.
As weeks passed, the line between learning and compulsion blurred.
Alex stopped attending family dinners, skipped workouts, and found his mind replaying code snippets even during sleep.
He decided to intervene using the 3 tools. He set a mindful pause before each coding session, limiting his study time to a set number of hours per day. He established a boundary: no coding after the evening hour, reserving that time for family and physical activity.
He also reframed his self-talk, reminding himself that mastery is a marathon, not a sprint,
and that his worth isn't measured by lines of code written.
Over the following months, Alex reclaimed his evenings, reconnected with loved ones,
and found that his learning became more efficient and enjoyable. The passion for programming remained, but it no longer dictated the terms of his life. You see, the difference between a healthy passion and a dangerous obsession often lies not in the activity itself, but in the relationship you have with it. By cultivating awareness, setting compassionate limits, and reshaping the narratives that drive you, you can keep the fire warm enough to inspire without letting it erupt into a blaze that destroys. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt a hobby or interest slipping into something that felt too consuming? What strategies have you tried to bring balance back? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's learn from each other's experiences.
If this exploration resonated with you, give the video a thumbs up.
And consider subscribing so you won't miss future deep dives into the mind's most fascinating patterns. Your support helps keep this channel alive.
And together, we can continue uncovering the hidden forces that shape our lives.
Remember, passion is a powerful engine, but you are the driver. By staying present, setting thoughtful boundaries, and nurturing a kind inner dialogue, you can steer that engine toward a road that leads to fulfillment rather than ruin. Keep the flame bright, keep it controlled, and watch as it lights the path to a richer, more balanced life.